Nigerians woke up to the financial fear the day the Apex Bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria, ordered DMBs, and by DMBs I mean depositing money banks, your GT banks, your access banks, to impose a cybersecurity levy of 0.5% on electronic financial transactions. Now, frankly speaking, this has grave consequences as Nigerians are reeling under the weighty multiple charges in the midst of extreme financial difficulty brought on by the policies of the Tinubu administration. Now, on this issue, now to x-ray the issue or shed more light, I've got with me economic and financial think tank Pelumi Awe. Pelumi, welcome to the show.
Glad to be.
Now, concerning cybersecurity, now when it comes to cybersecurity, the layman will actually think you're talking about the cyberspace. And those who are grounded in ignorance will actually think Yahoo first. Now, when we talk about cybersecurity now involving the federal government, now what's your take on this now?
Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. I think it's a good move, but a move done at the wrong time. And it's what we have discussed again and again on this show. Every time I come here, we talk about the moves by the federal government of Nigeria, but it's wrongly timed. And
no, at this point in time, why I love bringing you on the show now, right? Because the economy actually is affecting the politicking which actually ought to take place. Now, concerning these transactions, now we want to see now who it would actually impact, positively or negatively, right?
Yes. Yeah, we'll check on that.
Join us in the next phase of the show. But before you do that, you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media. Welcome back to the show. On the show, I've got with me Pelumi Awe. He'll be shedding light concerning the cybersecurity levy, which was actually given as directed from the Tinubu administration to the Apex Bank, the CBN. Now, Pelumi, to begin with, Apex Bank, the central bank, under the directive of the federal government, has actually ordered banks to impose this cybersecurity levy of 0.5%, which I want to believe you're very much aware. Now, could this be another mischievous motive by the federal government to generate funds from an already choking or stifled populace? Because I want to believe now, you've not eaten this morning, have you?
I have not done that.
You've not done that? Now, tell us more.
Well, cybersecurity is an attempt to protect the system from digital attack. And if you look at it from that context, it sounds like a very good idea to say we want to build the people to protect our national system from attacks from the foreign space there. But there are the questions coming up, and this is it's not a thing of the present. It's been on ground since 2018. It was just reenacted this time around, and the government, seeking every way to make money, has started to activate that part of the economy. But like I said before this time, it's a right move done at the wrong time. And if you look at it from every angle of the idea, the broad concept, fantastic. In fact, Nigeria is one of the few countries in the world today that has implemented this idea on a national scale. Google it. And that's one of the first countries in the world today to initiate this idea on a national scale. So the economy at the moment is not in a very good state. People are suffering. Today, being Monday, we have Labour Party members, Labour Congress members on the streets of different parts in Abuja protesting, asking that they want the government to reverse the idea of electricity tariff hike. So while that is still happening, we have other things that the government has brought on board. And now you are now asking people to pay. Then what then is the benefit of the poorest person in Nigeria? We have so many poor people in Nigeria, and if they cannot believe, and if you want to drive the idea of a cashless economy, then you don't want to bring this on board. It's a dangerous thing to bring this on board at this time, because we don't have enough banks to reach every nook and cranny of the country. There are still places where before you can get a bank to pay anything, you need to spend like 1,215 before you get there to and fro. So if you want to push a cashless economy, you don't ask people, bearing in mind that you are in a space where there are so many poor people, you cannot ask them to put that in their budget. Say every time I want to transfer, because the idea of the cybersecurity levy is that every time you make an electronic transaction, that is not, because we have an exclusive list of an exemption list of dues that maybe payments that don't fall in that part. For instance, salary payment, loan disbursement don't fall in that range. But there are other things that if I want to now make a transaction now to do something, to transact, and that is transaction, that is buying, that is buying something usually. If that happens, means I have to pay a particular amount to say, okay, this is the amount I pay, like a tithe to the federal government of Nigeria. I imagine how many times people make such transactions. We have over 200 million people in Nigeria today. If 100 million persons in Nigeria today make transactions, and because we don't make transactions once, we make it as many times as possible. And so the government is looking for a way to make money because it wants to fund this budget. It wants to fund the budget on ground. And because the World Bank has not even granted permission for our about $75 billion, I guess, loan we want to get from the World Bank. I don't know if the figure is correct, but we've requested for money from the World Bank. They've not released it. And they said they're going to review it in June. So my point to that question is that it sounds like a right move, but I tell you, a right move done at the wrong time.
Now, I just picked something from there now. In totality or in entirety, it therefore means that Nigeria is a theater with so many scenes or series. Now, with all these scenes and series now, I want to liken it to the Caesarian era where they say, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Now, what will actually be the implication? Because definitely there are people who are going to evade these levies, tax, I mean now. Will the government actually clamp down with a punching hand to actually clamp down on those people?
Well, it's a thing that whatever it has to do with the private sector, when you bring banks on board, to say, we want to do this, because the private sector is a sector that it's for profit. If I don't have a system to make money, I shut down my business. That's how the private sector works. And so everybody is trying to make sure that my business works. The government has said, has instructed them at the time, has instructed the banks to say, see, we want to ensure that, because the government tracks, they submit reports to the central bank almost every day. There are daily reports every day. How much money came into the bank today, all about the banks, because that's why you find that bankers stay in their banks pretty late, about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. sometimes, because they want to balance everything and send the report in. And there's a particular team that sends their report to the Central Bank of Nigeria every day to tell what amount has come in the banking totality. So every day there's a transaction, there are classifications to say, okay, salary disbursement, that's at the end of the month. You can already tell at the end of the month, saying intra-bank transfer, meaning that if I have an account with Access Bank and I also have an account with Zenith Bank and I transfer my money from Access to Zenith, that will not be charged. That's still fine. So all of that, there's like an Excel sheet that they tend to put out all this reporting. So every day there is that part of the sheet that will have Cybersecurity Levy. And guess what? That money is not going to the bank. That money is going to the federal government of Nigeria. And when we talk about that even more, to say, can the government then track those who don't pay? Because people can circumvent this thing.
Yeah, because that's actually what I wanted you to even expatiate on, talking about a mechanism set in place to checkmate people who evade these levies.
Well, how the government can track people who want to circumvent this is to say, so this is just this. When the government wants to make money from that kind of scheme, the government can say, okay, we're going to reduce the money circulation. You can't borrow, you can't withdraw beyond this amount of money. Okay, that's settled. Now, how the government can track it is to work with the banks. They're going to work with the banks, and then also ensure that there is a limit to what a person can withdraw in a particular bank at a particular period of time. When that is put in place, already in our apps, we already have an amount you cannot exceed. So I have an account with Access Bank, and there's an amount I can exceed every single day transacting. So the way government can track this, because if people have money in their hands, then they won't need to pay. So I say, if I want to beat the system, I need to have more cash. That's how to beat the system, actually, because the banks have a way of tracking and they submit their reports. So the way to beat the system is to have cash with you and to say, I'm not going to transact. I'm only going to do cash transaction, and then it then alters the idea of having a cashless society. So the mechanisms that have to be put in place is to say that you can't have beyond this amount of money in your account. You can't withdraw beyond this amount of money every day cash. Then the CBN will also need to work with commercial banks to track transactions every single time.
Okay, now, not to deviate now from the financial sector, now, this is just talking out loud from the subject matter on ground. Can this secure mechanism now be used to replicate in the security sector?
Well, the security sector,
take, for instance, now we have banditry now, and these banks now are storing funds, which are actually financing this terrorist activities. Now, if you go to the Middle East now, they might not necessarily come up with cash. The bribery goes on with maybe they transit one gold material or one precious stone. So how can this mechanism now be replicated now when it comes to the security sector?
Well, when it has to do with a direct customer relationship with the bank and then the government, it's a smooth process. But when it has to do with people kidnappers, for instance, who would get a person, they have their POS stuff in the box there. Give me your card. They insert the card into the POS. They punch your pin. They make the transaction happen. And in fact, it's something that we're looking at talking about soon, about how that the government has asked that POS operators register, right? Register. So that's a way to even track that. Now, that's a very powerful move by the government. They're saying, because a policy cannot work by itself alone. You need stakeholders. You also need, extra dots. So, for instance, talking about cybersecurity levy, we're saying, okay, one that is done, we're saying we're going to also do this move. We're going to engage every sector to ensure that this doesn't happen again. That our security infrastructure is stronger. The architecture, the design of our security has to be firmer. You say, how do terrorists get money to themselves? Because they eat. How do they even get food to eat? Who are those sponsoring them there? And this is where technology has to come on board. But again, it's the right move, but a right move done at the wrong time. Now, this is, if I were to recommend to the federal government to say, how do you ensure that the poor don't pay for this? In more senior societies, what they do is that they take from the rich and help the poor. That's how to reduce crime. Take from the rich, help the poor. In fact, the rich, do you know that there are places in Lagos today where the estates in Lagos today, where the owners of the people living in the estates, when they are driving out, they intentionally give area boys money to eat.
Definitely.
Because they know that you are giving to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. What they would have come to take from you forcefully. You are even giving them peanuts there. And those guys don't care. All they want is daily bread. And when they are done, you give them 1K in a day, they are fine. They're good to go.
Now you get back from work. You
do the same. You say, Baba, and you give them money. Guess what? The day you're tired, maybe you are on the road, you're stuck. Those guys will come and aid you and help you out. The way the government can make this happen is say, anybody transferring from 100,000 airports will pay cybersecurity levy. That's a smarter way. They won't even revolt. But when you now start saying, let everyone pay, even me, I will pay. You have money, you will pay. But there are people who they don't even have what it takes to feed themselves in a day.
So now in totality, now it therefore means in summary, it's a select few who are actually caught out for this 0.5% levy.
Definitely.
Okay, now conclusively, on a conclusive note, now this cybersecurity levy now, according to reports or news sources, states that it could help the government potentially generate 3 to 7 trillion naira in 1 year. Now, governments or past administrations have been known for misappropriation of funds. We've even heard it in songs of Fela Nicola Kokuti, where they go stealing funds, even up till now. The song he sang back then is still replicated now in various administrations. Now, this administration, which actually began in 2023, ahead of the Better Edu incident. Now, a situation whereby government is able to generate from this levy 3 to 7 trillion. Do you feel they will actually put it to use, or good use, let me put it that way, judging from the CBN governor which we have now, Cardoso, under Tinubu?
The government at the moment has shown that it can keep its word, and we want to believe that it's possible. Sometimes you just have to be optimistic about the system. To say, given the way the FCC has been on its toes, you know about Yabelo, although the issue now, we don't know what's happening about Yabelo this week. But the thing is that we're in a time when it seems like the government at the moment, it cares about the people, and if it's not a camouflage, then we should actually see them use the money wisely. I read on Facebook today how that somebody said that Abuja is not a good place that Wike is working on, that the roads in Abuja are very well made and done. And that's a good thing to hear about what Wike is doing in Abuja. So if the government can make so that huge amount of money from this levy, and I hope that the money is used for the purpose for which it was gotten. So I'm saying we want to safeguard our system, we want to upgrade things. Okay, so if that money is used for what it wants to do, you'll be shocked the result we're going to get. But I just hope, I want to be optimistic that the government will keep to its word.
Okay. The show is Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. Currently, now Nigeria is on an Israelite journey, and it's our hope that the country gets to its promised land. Now, also with X-ray analysis from Pelumi Awe, frankly speaking, in my own opinion, for the government to actually work on its finances, it ought to put a stop to crude oil theft, because we are losing actually 400,000 barrels, which are lost daily, and also cuts the gigantic wastages in expenditure and overhead costs, including humongous sums apportioned to lawmakers for constituency projects, and also unnecessary travels. The show, like I said earlier on, has been Viewpoints, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. You do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us across various social media platforms. Thanks for watching.